Today's video is brought to you by Humblewood.net. Hey, the Konosuba movie's coming out soon. Gives me another chance to brush back up with the anime and visit some stuff that I missed in the last video. Now, a lot of times when I chat with you guys, the video that you say you found my channel on was Konosuba In D&D. It's awesome that you managed to find my channel at all with the sea of content creators on YouTube, but what I don't understand is why my Konosuba video was so popular. I know a lot of people really like the show, so that probably helped, but in my opinion, the builds in that video were really lackluster. A lot of info wasn't exactly correct, and I totally could have done better with the art. Megumin being a body pillow was still pretty funny though. So today we'll be revisiting the old D&D builds that we created for Konosuba, and I hope a lot more of us can actually agree with these ones. Just like before, I'm only using the anime season 1 and 2 for a reference guide, mainly to avoid spoilers for anyone not keeping up with the light novel, and for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet. To begin, Megumin's build in the original video had pretty good intentions. The quirk for her concept was to deal as much damage as physically possible with her explosion magic, which before we flavored as delayed blast fireball. It's like a fireball, but, you know, delayed. Now, it wasn't after that video until I realized I never even brought up her other abilities, skills, or even feats, which is terrible because I know a lot of you really like Megumin. I mean, really like Megumin. You know she's like 14 years old, right? Anyway, this time around we're gonna do her right. First off, Megumin's explosion spell primarily does fire damage, along with leaving a huge crater in the blast radius. Exploded rocks, trees, and other objects in the area could also do a lot of damage to anyone in the explosion, coupled with tornado-esque wind speed strong enough to send Aquas flying. Because of this, I'd say a good chunk of damage this spell actually does comes not just from the flames, but the debris being picked up and thrown around as well. Meteor Swarm is a 9th level spell that fits the script quite nicely, and although you do see Megumin chanting for quite some time, how long she takes varies drastically on how serious she's trying to be. Since Meteor Swarm only takes an action to use, Megumin would really need to tone down her performance, from a simple to a much longer Now, this wouldn't be Megumin without the drawbacks, those being that she's a one-trick pony that loses the ability to move after she casts her spells. In order to paralyze Megumin after she casts her explosion magic, we'll need to know 2 spells in particular: Contingency and Hold Person. Also, I know, Megumin only knows explosion magic, but hear me out on this, okay? Contingency is a cool and really underappreciated spell for 2 reasons. Mostly because it doesn't do anything on its own, but rather casts whatever you put inside of it once a certain condition is met. For this scenario, we'll cast Contingency, load it up with Hold Person, and tell it to cast it on Megumin once she finishes her explosion spell. To make sure we fail our save against the magic, Wisdom's gonna need to be our dump stat, and by going Sorcerer, we can use Heightened Spell to give ourselves disadvantage. There's still a chance she won't be affected, but the odds are so low at this point that you can expect her to fall flat on her face every time. You know, before we continue the video, I just need to say that it's hilarious how broken the characters in Konosuba are, but it's even better to see just how much effort needs to go into being useless in D&D. Megumin literally has to spend 8 spell slots worth of magic just to paralyze herself. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. Now, there's a lot more ways you could flavor Megumin around maxing out her explosions damage output, but for the video's sake, I'll sum it up pretty quickly. Megumin's explosion magic would be its strongest if she was a goblin, seeing as the Fury of the Small ability works with spell damage. Elemental Adept would let Megumin burn targets through their fireproof armor, while also filleting her opponents to a slightly darker crisp. Her weapon of choice would be a Staff of Adornment, seeing as you can have a crystal float near the tip. This is purely cosmetic, but to Megumin I'm sure it's a must-have. And various other skills like the Sorcerer's Empowered Spell trait and Elemental Affinity feature to bump up Meteor Swarm's damage just a tad bit more. At this point, by rolling max damage, it's not hard to say that this explosion spell could take out a CR16 Blue Dragon in one hit. So Megumin was the girl who needed the biggest rework, with the next in line being Darkness. I made a lot of controversial choices with Darkness's build, with the biggest being her class. Monk wasn't the greatest choice in terms of flavor, and even though the point of her build was to make sure she could never land blows, the kit we ended up with wasn't even functional. Yep, she's completely broken, so let's start from the ground up. Starting her off as a barbarian would be a good place to begin. The Crusader enjoys soaking damage, but dying isn't her end goal. Barbarians have the largest health pool in D&D, along with choosing the Bear Totem path, which would deck her up with resistance to all damage, save for Psychic. She can't enjoy it as much if it's not physical, right? Now for swordplay, the feat Great Weapon Master gives Darkness an ability to lower her attack's accuracy in exchange for extra damage. If we're using point buy, Darkness would have a 0 on all of her attack rolls. At this point, her chances of landing a hit on any high-ranking monster are next to none. To up the ante a bit, changing Darkness to a dwarf would make her roll disadvantage on all of her heavy weapon attacks, seeing as small creatures struggle to hold big weapons, and her newfound dwarven toughness would raise her maximum health even higher. Finally, to speed through the rest of her kit, strap on the tough feat to increase her health pool even more, give her a great sword to miss every attack with, and finish her off with a flimsy pair of fake plate mail. Because you can't convince me that flying cabbages were able to crack through pure metal armor? Admit it, we all know Darkness wants her armor to fall off. Tallying up her hit points, Darkness would have almost 300 HP, which is almost double of what she had in our old video. If she's getting a bit steamy and procs rage, the girl could frontline for almost 600 damage worth of attacks. Alright, Aqua's next up on the list. Honestly, I feel like how we made her in the original video was pretty good, but a lot of you said I was being pretty generous giving her a -1 into intelligence. So let's see how far we can crank that down. Turn the girl into a half-orc to lower her smarts down by 1 point, or if you're being really mean, water drank from the river Styx inflicts creatures with the Feeble Mind spell, lowering their intelligence score to 1 permanently if not cured fast enough. The best part is, Divine Intervention could easily fix Aqua if this was the case, but knowing how egotistical the Goddess of Water is, I'm pretty sure it was in Eris's best interest to keep Aqua an incompetent mess. Personally, I don't blame her. Now to our main protagonist. Just like Aqua, Kazuma's build from the last video was pretty tight. To recap, he was part Arcane Trickster Rogue for that sweet invisible mage hand, part Order Cleric for Create Water, part Divination Wizard for a bunch of mundane cantrips, and a lot of other various low-level spells to ensure he always got his way. Along with all of that, the goal was to make him as lucky, or rather as successful, as physically possible. With the lucky feat and foretelling rolls from being a diviner, Kazuma could re-roll up to 5 dice every day. Not bad, but choosing to be a halfling could raise the chances of success to go so much higher. Rerolling natural ones is a godsend for RNG, so expect Kazuma to always roll unnaturally high during every session, and for everyone else around him to roll unnaturally low. Also, some people pointed out that I forgot to add his snipe ability, but with a high dex, sneak attack bonus, and tray of bonus dice to roll, you could always assume he's basically using it every round. Now, up until now we've only been repairing older builds, but I can't admit my job is done yet until we finish out with a bang. Wiz the Lich General had a lot more detail for her character than any other NPC in Konosuba. Along with that, we know more about her backstory than even some of the main protagonists, which is kinda weird. So, Wiz is a lich that helps keep the Demon Lord's castle protected from intruders. Aside from powers that sound like really potent abjuration magic, Wiz knows high-level necromancy spells, and solely to flex on Megumin can also use Meteor Swarm. Oh sorry, I meant. We gave Kazuma Drain Touch in our original video by flavoring it into the necromancy spell Vampiric Touch, dealing damage to our target and healing ourselves in the process. Now, if Wiz wanted to transfer that health from herself to another target, the equally painful spell Life Transference drains your own energy to heal somebody else's. It's like an overly complicated electricity wire with more spell slots being burnt than what's probably necessary. Now, one of Wiz's supposedly iconic spells comes from her old adventuring name as the Ice Witch. From the looks of it, she's able to create walls of ice to trap, imprison, and kill targets with. Albeit a little lackluster, the spell Wall of Ice works perfectly for this. Also, don't let the name fool you, Wall of Ice can also become Dome of Ice, keeping targets stuck inside and freezing any that try to escape. Now, Wiz's final ability is one that gets Kazuma's group into the most trouble. Teleport is a spell that can transport objects from one location to another, and has a better chance of working based on your familiarity with the place you're trying to send it. What we can get from this is that Wiz tried to teleport the Destroyer's core far out into a wide open field, the spell went off target, and found itself landing right inside some rich guy's manor. Essentially, I'm saying that teleport in D&D works comically similar to the way it functions in Konosuba, and I'm really happy with that. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and just a reminder that it was sponsored by Humblewood.net. Want to make a little Megumin bird that burns down every forest she enters? Humblewood's campaign setting has everything you need to make that happen. From birdfolk to other woodland creatures, there's no shortage of new content to experiment with. Along with that is a large assortment of minis to make the tabletop experience that much more immersive. So if you're looking to excite your players with a fresh feel for D&D, visit Humblewood.net.